You ever get to that point where you're just done? Not because you're lazy or giving up, but because you've been pouring everything you've got into something for so long, and still nothing's moving. You keep showing up. You follow the rules. You push yourself harder. You think more, tweak more, try more, but it's like life is just stuck. And in the middle of all that effort, there's this small, quiet voice in the back of your mind whispering, maybe it's not supposed to be this hard. That's when trust starts to show up. See, we grow up learning that hard work is the answer to everything. If something isn't working, push harder, wake up earlier, hustle longer. Work on yourself more. Fix whatever's wrong with you. That's the message, right? But what nobody tells you is this. That's only half the truth. Sometimes it's not about pushing harder. It's about trusting deeper. It's not always about doing more. It's about aligning more. Because when you finally begin to trust yourself, life, timing, the quiet moments, you start to feel a shift. The things that felt heavy, they begin to move. The people you used to chase, they start reaching out. The answers you were desperately searching for, they just show up. You start to feel lighter, like you're not dragging your life behind you anymore. Because here's the thing, we don't always get what we push for. We get what we're aligned with. And trust puts you in that alignment. Now, trust isn't about crossing your fingers and hoping everything works out. It's about knowing, deep in your gut, that you don't have to control every single detail just to feel safe. It's about breathing a little deeper, loosening your grip, and reminding yourself that it's not your job to carry the weight of the entire world. You're here to live. And life flows so much better when you're not gripping every moment trying to make it perfect. And I get it. Trust is hard, especially when all you've ever known is pressure. When you've built your life around pushing, letting go feels like failure. It feels risky, it feels like weakness, but it's not. It's power. Real trust isn't passive, it's powerful. Because when you stop wasting your energy trying to control the uncontrollable, you finally have energy for what actually matters, for what you can control. Let me tell you something that most people never realize. Over-efforting is often a symptom of self-doubt. When you don't fully trust yourself, you start to overdo. You don't trust your gut. You don't trust your own timing. You don't trust that what's meant for you will recognize you without you constantly proving yourself. So you overthink. You overgive. You keep showing up when your body's begging you to rest. You keep trying not from peace but from fear. That fear tells you, if I stop now, everything will fall apart. But that's a lie. Sometimes the moment you stop trying so hard, that's when everything starts working. Because you're no longer operating from desperation, from fear, from the need to force life to give you what you want. Instead, you're grounded, present, aligned. And alignment? Alignment doesn't chase. It attracts. Trust gives space. It lets silence exist without rushing to fill it. It allows pauses without panic. It sees stillness, not as a problem, but as a possibility. Because the truth is, the most meaningful things in life, love, peace, growth, they don't show up through pressure. They emerge in stillness. They come to you when you're not chasing, but listening. And here's something most of us miss. The more you try to control, the more life confirms that you're not in control. That's why it feels so heavy. That's why it keeps slipping through your hands. The energy behind it is fear. And fear makes you grip things that were never meant for you in the first place. But trust? Trust releases. It listens. It doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It says, if this is truly meant for me, then it's already finding its way to me. That's not naive. That's wisdom. That's the voice of someone who's lived enough life to know that sometimes letting go is more effective than holding on. When you've forced enough closed doors, when you've exhausted yourself chasing people who never saw your worth, when you've burned out trying to fix things that were never yours to fix, you start to understand that trust isn't weak. It's not passive. It's not lazy. It's a strong, deliberate, grounded choice. It's choosing to stop pouring your energy into fear and start investing it into peace. And peace isn't just a feeling, it's a frequency. One that opens doors you didn't even know existed. When you stop trying to control life, you become the kind of person life wants to meet halfway. You shift from chasing to attracting, from surviving to living. But I'll be real with you. Trust won't feel natural at first, especially if you were raised to believe that love has to be earned, that rest is laziness, that success is only for those who suffer for it. If you learned early that pressure equals progress, then trust will feel foreign. And letting go? That'll feel like danger. But it's not. You weren't put on this earth to grind yourself into dust for peace. You weren't born to clench your jaw, tighten your chest, and call that discipline. There's a way to move forward that doesn't cost you yourself. There's a way to build, grow, and evolve that doesn't drain your soul. And trust, real trust, gives you that path. It gives you back your energy. It gives you back your breath. It gives you clarity, not from thinking more, but from being here. From finally landing in the present, in your body, in your peace. You're not running mental simulations, trying to predict every outcome anymore. You're not constantly begging the universe for reassurance. You're steady. You're rooted. You're open. And from that place, you start making better decisions. You attract better relationships. Not because you're chasing, but because people feel your calm. They feel your safety. And suddenly everything changes. You stop rushing, not because you've given up, but because you've finally learned the difference between force and flow. Trust doesn't mean you sit around doing nothing, waiting for life to deliver everything to your doorstep. It means you stop self-sabotaging every time there's a pause. It means you stop jumping in to fix things just because you're uncomfortable with the silence. Because now you understand something important. Uncomfortable doesn't mean unsafe. Quiet doesn't mean nothing's happening. Slow doesn't mean you're behind. When you really start trusting, you begin to feel life's rhythm. You stop panicking at every delay. You stop interpreting silence as rejection. Instead, you realize, maybe this pause is here on purpose. Maybe this space is making room for something better. Maybe life is saying, not yet, because it's protecting you from what you're not ready for. And here's the part that stings a little. Sometimes, the only reason you're not moving forward is because you're still clinging to something that was never meant to come with you. Maybe it's a belief, maybe it's a habit, maybe it's a version of yourself you've outgrown. But you're gripping it like it's the key to your next chapter, when really it's the lock. When you let go of that, when you stop forcing yourself into places that don't feel alive anymore, the path opens. Not because you bulldozed your way through it, but because you finally stopped blocking it. That's the real shift. From control to trust, from burnout to balance, from proving your worth to remembering it. There's something powerful that happens when you stop needing everything to happen right now, when you stop clinging to instant results and fast validation, when you stop rushing your healing, your growth, your purpose. You start to notice the things that are already working. You start to appreciate the shifts that were happening underneath the surface all along. And maybe, for the first time, you realize just how much energy you were wasting, checking for progress every 5 minutes, measuring yourself against someone else's timeline, panicking because you felt behind, but behind what exactly? Some invisible standard you never even agreed to? Some version of success that doesn't even match your truth? When you really trust, deep, grounded trust, you stop reacting to delays like they're failures. You stop treating closed doors like punishments. Instead, you see them for what they are: redirections. Invitations to something better, something truer, something more you. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this creating space for? That shift, that's where the trying stops and the becoming begins. Because here's the thing, you can get what you thought you wanted and still lose yourself in the process. You can force the relationship, you can grind for the career, you can hustle for the success. But if you're disconnected from yourself, anxious, burnt out, and spiritually empty by the time you get there, what was the point? That's why trust matters. Not just for getting the outcome, but for keeping your wholeness along the way. Trust builds a life that's sustainable. Force builds a life that eventually breaks you. When you move from trust, you stop compromising your values just to get ahead. You stop silencing your intuition just to be accepted. You stop chasing people just to avoid being alone. You start honoring your own rhythm. You listen when your body says rest. You say no when something feels off. You walk away from what doesn't feel alive anymore, even if it used to. And something incredible happens. You begin to attract a completely different kind of reality, one that's based on soul, not survival, on truth, not performance, on peace, not pressure. And when that shift happens, people around you notice, not because you post about your healing journey, not because you're trying to prove how enlightened you are, but because your energy feels different. You're not fighting life anymore. Life is flowing through you, not around you. Now here's one of the most misunderstood things about trust. People think it means doing nothing. Like if you trust, you just sit back and wait for the universe to take care of it all. But that's not trust. That's passivity. That's hoping. That's waiting. Real trust is active. It's steady. It's intentional. It's a quiet confidence, not a desperate wish. When you trust, you still show up. You still take action. But it's not from panic, it's not from fear. You're not reacting just to make the discomfort go away. You're not throwing yourself into motion just to feel like you're in control. You let the discomfort exist. You sit with it instead of escaping it. And that's where the real transformation happens. Think about it. How many bad decisions have you made simply because you were afraid to wait? How many times have you stayed in relationships too long because you didn't believe something better would come? How often have you said yes when your whole body was screaming no? Because you didn't trust your own voice would be respected. Trust changes that. It rewires your behavior. It teaches you how to pause before you react. It gives you permission to take a breath, to sit with a question instead of rushing to an answer, to walk away instead of constantly proving your worth. You stop tying your value to how fast you move or how much you do. You stop jumping into conversations just to fix how people see you. You stop saying yes just to feel less alone. You stop trying to earn things that should be freely given, and you begin to wait, not passively, but patiently, confidently, for the right things, not just the fast things, not just the convenient things, but the things that feed your soul, that ground your nervous system, that don't require you to shrink, hustle, or perform. That's the kind of life trust creates. One where every no is protection. Every delay is preparation. Every silence becomes sacred space where something meaningful can grow. You stop measuring your growth in metrics and milestones. You start measuring it in how deeply you breathe, in how little you chase, in how soft you've become without losing your strength. That's the difference. Trust won't make your life easier, but it will make it clearer. And clarity will take you further than control ever could. And here's what might surprise you the most. When you really start trusting, you begin to care less about the outcome and more about your alignment with it. You stop asking, will I get this thing? And start asking, does this even fit who I'm becoming? That single shift, it changes everything. Because when you're no longer chasing outcomes just to feel safe, you give yourself space to reflect, to listen to yourself, to question what you're even chasing. Is it truly yours? Or is it just an old goal, shaped by survival, fear, or the need to prove yourself? Trust creates space for discernment. And without that space, you'll keep rushing toward things that were never meant for you, all because you're afraid to slow down. But when you do slow down, you see clearly. You stop reacting to fear. You start responding from wisdom. You stop settling, not because you're trying to prove you're better than anything, but because you finally know you're worthy of more. You stop over-explaining yourself to people who never actually listen. You stop chasing opportunities that drain you, relationships that confuse you, spaces that shrink you. And most importantly, you stop performing. For love, for validation, for attention. Because you no longer need to earn what you already are. Your actions stop becoming a desperate grab for worth and start becoming an expression of it. That's the energy of trust. It's not loud, it's not showy, it's not a highlight reel or a hustle post, it's not trying to be seen, it's simply grounded, centered, whole. And from that stillness, from that quiet, powerful presence, life meets you differently. You start getting better offers, not just professionally, but emotionally, relationally. You start having deeper, more fulfilling conversations. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because people feel safe around you. They sense your stability, your peace. You attract situations that regulate your nervous system, not activate your anxiety. You're no longer walking through life trying to outrun your fear. You're walking with trust. And that shift? It's everything. It doesn't mean life becomes easy overnight. It doesn't mean there won't be challenges. But the way you move through those challenges changes. You're no longer clenching your fist through every unknown. You're breathing through it open, willing, aligned. Because now you know. You don't need to chase the life you want. You need to match it. And that match doesn't come through hustle, overthinking, or burnout. It comes through energy, through mindset, through presence. Trust doesn't mean you wait forever, stuck in indecision. It means you stop rushing into what's not real, just because you're afraid of the pause. So if you're still carrying that old belief that trying harder will finally bring you peace, this is your permission to lay it down. Trying has its place. Effort matters. But trust is what sustains you when trying starts to drain you. It's what holds you steady when everything around you feels uncertain. It's what reminds you that what's meant for you, really meant for you, will never require you to destroy yourself to receive it. No matter how much the world glorifies hustle, speed, urgency, the most meaningful things in life, they usually arrive quietly. They don't scream for attention. They don't demand you sacrifice your sanity to earn them. They just ask you to make space, to be ready, to be aligned. And that space, that readiness, it's built through trust. Trust your timing. Trust the silence. Trust the process, especially when it feels uncomfortable. Because that discomfort isn't always danger. Sometimes it's just expansion, stretching you, preparing you, making room for what's next. The moment you stop forcing everything to happen right now is often the exact moment it all starts aligning faster than you ever imagined. Not because you tried harder, but because you finally stopped getting in your own way. And if something in this message landed for you, if it softened a part of you, even just a little, take a second and hit that like button. Not just to support the channel, but to signal to yourself, I'm choosing trust. I'm ready to allow. I'm done forcing. If you want more moments like this, gentle reminders that you're not behind, that you're not broken, that you don't need to prove your worth, hit that subscribe button. Let's keep growing together. And if you made it to the end of this video, drop the word trust in the comments. Just that one word. No explanation needed. It tells me you're not just listening, you're living it. You're stepping out of fear. You're stepping into presence, and that changes everything. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one.